What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Double G Gaming and another podcast. Jesus, I don't want to call it a podcast because I feel like it's not really technically a podcast. And I don't want to call it a vodcast because I feel like this shit sounds lame. But nobody's in the comments telling me what to call it, so I'm just going to keep on going with my life, I guess. So, anyway, welcome back to another weekly discussion about wrestling. And since there are really no sports to talk about, I could talk about the NBA, but I don't really want to because the NBA kind of sucks. We already know what's gonna happen from now until what you call it until the playoffs start. The Lakers might be out of it. Who knows? I don't even know who's first in each conference. I have no idea. I could really care less right now. I'll just wait until the playoffs start to talk back about that stuff. I don't really watch NHL, and there's not really any soccer news that I can cover. And obviously, baseball and NFL are not active right now, so I can't talk about that. But what I can talk about is some Elimination Chambers, some NXT, Raw, SmackDown, and some other news around the wrestling world that I can discuss here. So, starting it off, we'll look back at some of my Elimination Chamber predictions to see how they played out. I'll show you guys the scorecard that I did last week, and if you guys didn't watch that, that's how I'm going to be doing. Go back to my Elimination Chamber predictions. I almost said TLC predictions. But go back to my Elimination Chamber predictions, and that is how I'm going to be doing it. And now I'm going to be showing you guys the results of that said scorecard. And I had everything. Well, not everything, but everything that I thought was a pick or a lock of the century kind of blew up in my face. So the final score, it was 183 on the card, but I did like accounting and stuff, and it did not add up to 183. So I counted up like at least 20 times because I couldn't get the right. Every time I counted, I got a different number, but it was somewhere in the ball range of 100. You see 103 there, but it could be give or take. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, I did get a score of 54, counting up all my points, and let's run down some of these things. I'm not gonna talk about everything, but let's go down some of these things, some of these results, and what I was able to predict or not. So I thought Lashley and Lee were gonna win. Obviously, Finn Balor got the title, so you know what? I'm glad that I got that one wrong. I kind of just picked it because I thought there's no way they give Balor the belt here, but they did at the end of it, and whatever. Finn Balor got the belt, and Lashley doesn't anymore, so you can't really complain. I know he pinned Leo instead of Lashley, but come on, you got to see the big picture here. I don't even know what the big picture is, but moving on, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Shane and Miz also lost to the Usos. I didn't see that one coming, but we're going to get a rematch. I'll talk about that later when we're talking about SmackDown. But Shane and Miz lose to the Usos. I don't think they really care about anything that happens in your personal life because WWE is so nitpicky with what they decide to punish people for. Especially if you've been in the company for a long time. If you could probably get away with murder, as we've seen with probably Snuka and and his daughter. So this company hides so much shit, so much stuff that you should be punished for in any other company, but for some reason they don't do it. Either way, I don't really care about the Usos winning. They're a decent tag team, good tag team. They've improved leaps and bounds, as I've said before. I think I used to hate them when they were the face paint, the Usos, but now I don't have a problem with them. They get the straps, and yeah, Shane and Miz probably set up a WrestleMania match here. They'll probably turn on each other at Fastlane. I just don't know who's gonna be facing, who's gonna be heel, but we'll see what happens there. Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin continue their shit shows of matches, and at the end of it, what really happened? If you go over to Monday Night Raw, right? Lashley and McIntyre came out to help defeat Strowman, and then on Raw, they don't even communicate with each other. So what was the point of that? And then Strowman gets his win back the next night. What was the point of it? Ronda Rousey got a quick victory over Ruby Riott at Elimination Chamber, and then she had a stare down with Charlotte Flair. Becky Lynch came out hobbling out. Now, most of this segment I didn't have a problem with. This is exactly how Becky Lynch should be going about her business. Just destroying everything in her path. If something gets in her way, like the McMahon, she just kills them. If somebody like Charlotte gets in her way, she just kills her. But everything was decent about this segment. The only thing I'm complaining about, and you can't have a wrestling opinion without complaining about anything, but Becky Lynch, why the hell are you still doing this damn injury angle? I thought we got rid of it last week when she said she was cleared, and then you bring it right back up. Makes no sense. And I'll get to it a little bit later with the whole Asuka situation on how none of this makes any sense. Like, who gets wins on who, and then afterwards, or in previous years. But we'll get to that. But yeah, Becky Lynch comes out, attacks Rousey and Charlotte, and she bangs the fuck out of these people. She kills them basically with this crutch. I don't know what that crutch was made of, but it looked real. So it busted Rousey open. Um, so yeah, and then the women's tag team elimination chamber match. It was a botch fest, like I said it was going to be. Just because so many women, so many inexperienced women, and elimination chamber. It was a gimmick match, whatever. But anyway, I'm glad Nia and Tamina didn't get the win, so I'm glad I didn't get this prediction right. However, at the end of it, Sasha Banks and Bayley got the win. Mandy Rose continues to impress, but I have something else to say about that later. Sasha Banks and Bayley get the win, become the first ever tag team champions. That's who you should be giving it to. That's who you should be giving first ever anythings to. People that the fans are behind and the clear cut favorite. You can give it to a heel to get that heat or whatever, make them a bigger star, or an up and comer to make them a bigger star. But if the fans are behind them, nobody's going. Well, probably everybody's going to remember it because it was the first time ever. But it's a bigger impact when you just give it to the clear cut favorites, fan favorites, and glad they went with Sasha and Bayley. But at the end of it, I didn't enjoy their little promo that they cut. Enough with this bullshit. Like, I'm tired of it. Like, we don't care. Like, it's not that we don't care. It's just that get over it. All right. You've been fighting for this your whole life. The women's evolution, women's revolution, whatever you want to call it. Enough. Just if you want equality, you don't see Randy Orton or Daniel Bryan or Baron Corbin, the Usos, Finn Balor cutting a promo after their match, crying about winning a championship. You don't see that with the men, for the most part. I don't know. I don't. It's probably been done before, but enough with this whole crying at the end of a match because you won something. Just be happy. You are the champs. And what kind of boss cries all the time? That's what Sasha Banks, her gimmick is the boss, and she cries after every match. She cried when they got into this chamber match. Well, you didn't even win anything. You won the right to be in the chamber. You know what I mean? So like, I'm tired of that whole crying we deserve, or not we deserve, but we did it. Women are the best. We fought through this our whole life. Enough. And then the Elimination Chamber match, I'm glad this main evented because it told a good story at the end. Now, it went quick. For the most part, Elimination Chamber seemed like a quick pay-per-view, and I think it was. It was a little bit under 4 hours, what they had said it was going to be. Still a long pay-per-view to be having over 3 hours, but it was a short one for what they had advertised. Daniel Bryan gets the win here, and it was him versus Kofi at the end for a second, or maybe 2 seconds, here and there. I thought Kofi could have pulled it off, but I was like, there's no way. But, they still made me believe. Elimination Chamber at the end of it was a good pay per view overall. It just befuddles me, and I use that word, but I've never used that in any other context in my life except for wrestling. But it befuddles me how they are able to fuck up everything in a span of 24, 48 hours, as we'll get to in the next couple segments with Raw and SmackDown. But Elimination Chamber, for the most part, it was a pretty decent show. I could even argue from start to finish. There was a couple crazy stuff in there, but for the most part, I enjoyed Elimination Chamber. So let's move on to Raw and SmackDown. So Monday Night Raw kicked off with Triple H announcing that there were going to be a couple of. First of all, what is he? Is he a heel or a face? Because he was getting all into the whole Becky Lynch stuff, and First of all, nothing really came out of Elimination Chamber if you think about it. No storylines built up on Raw, moving us forward into Fastlane. I mean, you had like some little things and stuff here and there that kind of hinted at something, but for the most part, nothing really advanced in the storyline for Raw at least. On SmackDown, there was a couple of things that would move us forward into Fastlane, but not on Raw. I mean, Becky Lynch came out and attacked your quote unquote main event for WrestleMania. That's what they're calling it. I don't know if it will main event, but that's what they're calling it. And there are no repercussions. They didn't bring her out to punish her even more. I mean, she got suspended for 60 days. She shouldn't have been there. I get that she was kicked out at Elimination Chamber, but back in the day, there will be some continuance to this stuff. You could have now. There's a reason why Charlotte is in this because she just attacked her. I'll give them that, But now, why don't you say, all right, Charlotte said she wants you at Fastlane, and if you win, you get your spot back, and they do that. But no, nothing happens. I know they'll probably do something next week with the whole Ric Flair celebration or whatever, and Becky Lynch and Charlotte, but to get us forward in that storyline. But after a pay per view, you got to come out swinging, man. Come on, you got to keep the momentum going from a good pay per view, and instead you take one step forward and then 20 steps backwards. Absolutely no sense. And then he says there are going to be 4 call-ups from NXT. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be call-ups though, because obviously they brought up 2 champions. I don't know if they just brought them up to have a couple matches to kind of debut their talent and show us what they are capable for down the line, bringing them up for real, and now just kind of showcasing them or whatever. But Aleister Black, Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa came up with no real build-up, and the crowd. I know it's been a topic of a discussion these last couple of days, but the crowd was dead as fuck for all of this. I get not everybody's gonna be watching NXT, but it's not even on the fans' fault. They should not. Now the fans probably would have not cheered for anything that whole night, right? However, WWE should know what market, what city to debut NXT guys at. A Chicago. Why not wait next week in Atlanta, New York, somewhere in Texas? You get what I'm saying? Philadelphia. Don't debut it in a quiet market that nobody really uh, what do you call it? Nobody really relates it to wrestling or thinks about wrestling in Lafayette, New Orleans. Now, or not Lafayette, New Orleans, Lafayette, Louisiana. But because they could have even done it in New Orleans. They got a bigger pop the next night on SmackDown, and they already knew they were coming. But that was just a bad judgment call on WWE, and you see what I mean when I say they take one step forward and 20 steps backwards, because little things like that is so ridiculous. How a company doesn't Vince have multiple writers, multiple people that work for him, like to give him advice and stuff. You're telling me not one of those uh, dozens of people could have told Vince, had the balls to tell Vince. I just find like I have a job, right? You probably have a job, and if you have an idea that the boss doesn't see, wouldn't you at least, if you've been working there for a good amount of time, and obviously if you're working there for a year or two, you're not gonna just say some random stuff to the boss. But if you've been working there and you kind of get to know who the boss is, and you have an idea, wouldn't you tell the boss at least like, hey, I had this idea. Why don't we do this, and just see what he says? I feel like nobody ever says. They have no idea what the fuck they're doing there. I mean, couldn't they say to Vince, let's wait one night, debut him in New Orleans? Or let's wait a week, debut him in Atlanta? How is, out of the dozens of people that are working there, not see that? And if they did see it and not say anything, what the hell? Why are you working there? You get what I'm saying? Like, basically, yes men working for Vince. And why does Vince have that many people working for him if they are not, if he doesn't want advice from anybody? If he's not gonna take, whatever. I don't even know what the hell's going on. But that just been, and the thing is, WWE wasn't like that. I stopped watching in 2013 around the time I don't remember watching WrestleMania 29, so I think it was before that I stopped watching, but it was still around 2013, 2012. I also don't remember SummerSlam 2012, but I do remember Hell in a Cell 2012, which is kind of weird. I thought I stopped watching after Raw 1000, but I still remember stuff after it. But I do not remember WrestleMania 29. From there all the way until Hell in a Cell 2015, I didn't watch wrestling. And since I've been back, I've noticed every single year it just keeps getting worse and worse with this booking shit. Why are you signing up all these talent if you're not going to use them? Now, also, why are you signing guys that are like, Adam Cole, Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa? These are shorter guys, right? Guys that we have known Vince does not like. So why is Triple H going out of his way to sign them, make them a big deal in NXT, knowing that Vince is not going to use them well in on the main roster? That's another thing that doesn't make sense to me. Why are they wasting all this money signing all these indie talents that Triple H knows? I think he's the head of talent relations, which is the people that sign all these talents. So why are they wasting all this money signing talent that Vince knows, or that Triple H and everybody basically knows Vince is not going to use well? Why not just focus on building in-house talent and hope that they get pushes? Because I would rather take a Velveteen Dream. I don't think Elias was in the Indies. Rusev. I don't think Rusev was in the Indies. Was the Ascension on the Indies? But anyway, I'll take these guys, build their characters up, and then push them on the main roster, as opposed to having indie guys coming in, seeing all their hard work from 10, 15 years of putting their bodies on line, working for basically nothing, getting to the big time, which is still WWE, whether you like to admit it or not. It's still the big time. They get there, they are promised all this stuff, and then they get shit on the main roster because Vince does not see anything in them. Makes absolutely no sense. I'd rather just build in-house talent from your NXT developmental system. I mean, when's the last time we've seen a guy? I mean, Velveteen Dream was one, but besides Velveteen Dream, and I guess Elias. All right, Elias, Rusev, and Velveteen Dream. When is the last time they built an in-house guy and made him a big star? They don't even treat them with the respect. So, like, how are they going to treat people that made a name for themselves on the outside, on the indies? How are we gonna expect them to make them a big star if they don't even treat their own in-house made superstars with respect? So the NXT guys came, they did some stuff. I mean, it wasn't really like exciting or anything. They just had a couple matches. I don't see why they don't give them a little bit of mic time just to get us to know them a little bit better, especially with the crowd that was so dead. I mean, Gargano and Ciampa had a little bit of backstage, which, as an NXT watcher, you can see. You'll enjoy that little part. And Aleister Black said something to Elias, but I wasn't paying attention at the time, so I don't know what the hell he said. I could have went back to watch, but I didn't really want to. And then I don't think. Oh, Ricochet said something in the back, but it was one of those cringy. I love Ricochet, but and especially how he's done a lot better working the WWE system instead of just doing flips, dives, tips, and tricks all over the world, or like he did all over the world, whatever. But Ricochet did one of those cringy. I've been doing this for 20 years all over the world, and now it's my time to shine. One of those cringy ass promos that these guys do every single time when they come up to the main roster. I don't know why they keep making them say this stuff, but give them a character and let them go out and cut a promo on the people that they're wrestling or on the crowd if they are a heel like Ciampa and kind of Gargano, but I don't know. But kind of like Kurt Angle did or Chris Jericho. These guys used to get over with the crowd so much because of the promos that they would cut on the way to the ring to have a match. The Rock did that. Dolph Ziggler did that a couple times, I think. But anyway, yeah, CM Punk did that a couple times. Daniel Bryan. I could keep going on and on about all these people that have had kind of no character, and then if they gave them mic time, come down to the ring to kind of quick promo on their opponent or on the crowd, then they became big stars. You know what I mean? So give them a character, have them stick to it, have them know what the hell they're, have them know what the direction is for their character. Let them go out there, cut a promo on either the wrestler that they're facing or the crowd, depending on whether they're face or heel. So besides those four, or it was three because there were two tag team matches. So besides those three matches on Raw, nothing, like I said, nothing really got furthered in storyline mode. We had Baron and Braun again for the millionth time, and we're probably going to keep getting it. Fastlane, WrestleMania, Backlash, the greatest Survivor Series in Saudi Arabia, the greatest SummerSlam, the greatest WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, all that stuff. We're probably going to get Baron Corbin versus Braun Strowman for the rest of their lives. So I don't understand. And then Lashley and Leo, they had the match with Finn and Ricochet. What was the point of breaking them up the night before, and then you just brought them back together with no explanation? I can see why you would bring them back. They're heel, and that has happened before. The little guy, if it's a little guy and a big guy, the little guy would kind of plead to the bigger guy. It wasn't my fault. Please give me another chance. And because they're heels, you believe it. They're back together. They're devious, freaking bastards or whatever, and they'll do anything to get wins, so they're back together. But they didn't explain anything. They were just like, oh, I think they, on the commentary, I think they just reconciliated, or I don't know, whatever the word that they used. They got back together. Oh, really? Can you explain to us why and how? Show us a quick segment. It could even be a shot at the hotel. It could be shot at a hotel. Everything that you can do to make people, glued to the TV set. Like, oh shit, what? Wait, what happened? Leo and Lashley are at a hotel. I remember they were kind of fighting, but now what's going on? And then they get back together. You're like, okay, I see why they got back together the next night on Raw then. But no, they don't explain anything. They don't explain why Lashley and McIntyre had nothing to do with Corbin in the opening match when Corbin needed some more help. So and then McIntyre gets a quick win on Ambrose. Rollins again barely on the show, and at times you would forget that he's even facing Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship if they didn't mention it. Paul Heyman comes out and cuts another boring promo. I mean, it's the same old shit, basically. Now, I don't want to be like the guy that complains a lot, but when you give me a shit show, I said Elimination Chamber was a great pay per view, right? When you give me a bad show, I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna, give some shit. Yeah, and when I like it, I like it. SmackDown wasn't that bad, but Raw, you mix in no storytelling, going back on what you did at Elimination Chamber, a dead crowd, nothing makes sense. It's gonna be a bad show. And then the main event, Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott. Why does Ruby Riott deserve a rematch? She lost in like a minute, and now you're telling me, oh, now that they kind of did play it off here with the Riot Squad helping Ruby here. That's why it was a longer match. So I'll give them that. I don't understand why this would main event. And then afterwards, you're like, okay, I see why all right, they're main eventing this match because something's gonna happen afterwards. Either Charlotte or Becky Lynch is gonna come out, cause some more chaos. But no, nothing freaking happened. She gets the win with the disarmer again, or with the armbar, whatever you call it. She gets the win with that, and she celebrates. I don't even know if she celebrated for that long. And then we fade out to Chris Lee Knows Best, or whatever the hell was after that. Tupac, Biggie Shakur. No, but that was the end of Raw. Terrible show, terrible. Moving on to SmackDown. Again, we got the same NXT guys, but this crowd was a little bit better, so at least we got that. We got them in a different matches that we've never seen before, so that was a plus there. Even though they did kind of bury Eric Young and others, and Andrade, who should be getting wins right now, they should be top stars in their division. Sanity should be top tag team, and Andrade should be top, at least in the mid card right now, and then move his way up to the main belt. But they decided to bury them to NXT talent, and in a year or two, don't be surprised if the NXT talent that you see today get buried by some more NXT talent that got called up that year, and then making them look ridiculous. But that's just how the company is doing things. Hopefully, by 2020, when this XFL stuff launches, Vince is not that much in charge, but you know he will, and you know it will be even worse because he's going to be double dipping. He's an old man. He should not be doing two things at once, especially running two different companies, basically, and trying to write storylines, especially writing storyline. That's a tough task, especially if you're doing it all by yourself and you're not taking advice from anybody, right? Even though you have dozens of people to help you out, you're just writing all the storylines, having the final say in everything. And then over here running the XFL, and I think the XFL is gonna own all the teams. It's not like the NFL where people have their. I think owners have different owners. Well, obviously they own the team, but I don't think the NFL owns the teams. I think the XFL. What I what I think. Don't quote me on this. I think the XFL is gonna own the team. Now they'll give them like general managers. I think to like run everyday. What do you call it? Fuck. Everyday business, to conduct everyday business with the teams. But I don't think they're gonna have a. I don't think they're gonna have a owner, so to speak, kind of like the NFL. So that means that Vince is gonna be in charge of running those teams as well, and that's just gonna be more food on his plate. And he already had Thanksgiving dinner the night before. So how's he gonna digest all this food? Moving on though, from those NXT guys, hopefully we don't need to mention them anymore. But you know, it is a nice thing to say. These guys do deserve to be up here. Just have something for them. Stop bringing them up with nothing to do, and then a week from now, or not a week from now, a month from now, you have nothing for them again, and they're just not even on the show, not in storylines, or getting jobbed out. I'm tired of seeing that. Going back to what I said when I came back in 2015, I mean, Kevin Owens came in 2015. He was doing some good stuff. 2016, they had like Enzo and Kaz. They were doing decent stuff until 2017 is when they started, Now, obviously, they had the Ascension. They had Bo Dallas, who they treated like shit, Sami Zayn, and all that stuff. But you saw some guys get a big little push here and there. Like Neville even got a decent little push, even if it was with the cruiserweights. But even when he showed up at first, they were treating him like a big deal. He didn't really lose, so to speak, like an Ascension or a Bo Dallas would lose. But yeah, I just don't know what the hell they're doing with these people. Like, why do you have NXT to build stars? And not only when you bring them up, do you not continue to build them, but you just kind of reset them? It just makes no sense. Speaking of making no sense, this and one other thing on SmackDown kind of made me scratch my head. But however, I am enjoying this whole Miz, Shane, and Usos feud. But that's besides the point. Let's get into the little nooks and crannies here of this storyline. Miz comes out and apologizes to Shane McMahon, and then he's like, "You have the ability. You are a McMahon. Jesus, I can talk, but there's never been anything different. You're a McMahon, so give us a rematch at Fastlane, and let's get the title back." So the Usos come out and cut another promo on them, and would you look at this? We get a rematch at Fastlane. I don't understand why they made this a big thing to have no rematch, no title rematches. I've said this: title rematches are what makes storylines sometimes continue and makes sense for it to continue. Title rematches are a part of wrestling. I don't see why you would take that off. They, instead of saying no more title rematches, they should have said no more scripted promos. You know what I mean? Like something like that would have been a good big thing to take away from wrestling right now, or from WWE right now. Not title rematches. Title rematches make sense. They are okay to have. But anyway, and we're gonna get a title rematch, Shane and Miz, obviously. And why the hell is the Miz the one apologizing to Shane McMahon? He's a multiple time champion. The Miz is obviously. Shane McMahon should be the one apologizing for not pulling his weight and not coming in and breaking up the pin. Why is the Miz the weaker one in this tag team? He is the former WWE champion, and Shane McMahon is the former European champion, the guy that just does dives off of tall stuff. Uh, but I am kind of looking forward to the rematch. Like I said, I don't have a problem with title rematches. I don't know why they would ever say no more title rematches and make it a big deal. That that's something stupid. But I don't have a problem with it. Title rematch at Fastlane. It was a good one at the Chamber, so they'll probably pull it out again. The Usos will probably come out of that, and that will turn into the Shane and the Miz uh, turning on each other. I don't know who's gonna be what, but and then they're probably gonna go on to WrestleMania and have a match against themselves or against each other. And yeah, Kofi Kingston at the end of the night got a big ovation by the crowd. He got the win against Daniel Bryan again. And at the end, Shane McMahon comes out and says, at Fastlane, the number one contender is going to be. The whole crowd is chanting for Kofi. And Kofi gets a shot. So it's going to be Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. So in a span of 24 hours, we go from a show that advances no storylines moving forward, no matches set for Fastlane on Raw, and then 24 hours later, they're actually doing something, and now we have two matches set for Fastlane from SmackDown with a decent build and storylines to those matches. So I'm looking forward to Kofi versus Bryan and the Usos versus Shane Miz, believe it or not. And we'll see what happens there. I doubt Kofi Kingston will get. Oh shit! There's a cat outside of my window, but I don't know what the hell's going on. But I doubt they're gonna give Kofi Kingston the championship here at Fastlane of all places. They've only had one good Fastlane in my opinion, and that was last year. And even that Fastlane was kind of just a throwaway pay per view to get us to WrestleMania. And Fastlane has never been a good pay per view in my opinion. They should just get rid of it, kind of like they did with Great Balls of Fire. It has no legacy, and every time they've had a Fastlane, it's just been terrible. I have no idea why they had two pay per views before WrestleMania. It makes no sense, especially now because like Daniel Bryan was a chamber match, and he beat Kofi Kingston. So now you're telling me in a one-on-one match with both of them healthy because they're both going to be starting out the match one-on-one, Kofi Kingston is going to be able to beat Daniel Bryan now for the championship? Makes no sense. You get what I'm saying? So, but hey, I'm still looking forward to these two matches that they announced so far for Fastlane on SmackDown. And another thing, stop announcing matches on the internet unless it's after the SmackDown before the pay per view. And here's a question that I have for you guys: do you think Mustafa Ali? People are saying that Mustafa Ali was supposed to be getting this big push that Kofi Kingston is getting, but I just think it has to do with the fans knowing and liking what Kofi Kingston has done in his long career. I doubt that Mustafa Ali will be getting this sort of level of adulation from the fans, if you will. I think that's what it is. It's like Kofi Kingston has been here for so long. We've seen him through, his. He was supposed to get a push in 2009, but then Randy Orton put a stop to that. But yeah, we've seen Kofi Kingston from his career. This long tenured career, and he's finally getting his shot. I don't think he's ever gotten a championship match, a world championship match, besides chamber matches. He's been in chamber matches and Royal Rumbles for the belt, but he's never been in a one-on-one championship match. So we finally are gonna get to see it. I don't think Mustafa Ali would be getting this amount of love from the fans, especially a majority. And I know a couple of people that feel the same way, that wouldn't be cheering for Mustafa Ali like they're cheering Kofi Kingston. And I think Now, they probably would have given him the same spots. I'm not doubting that, but I don't think the crowd would be behind Mustafa Ali like they are with Kofi Kingston. But they would probably still be going the same direction with Mustafa Ali. I'm not doubting that this is probably Mustafa Ali's push if he didn't get injured, but I don't think the crowd would be as hot for Ali. I'll leave it at that. And now the final thing that I'm going to talk about on SmackDown, the thing that really kind of shook everybody to their core, Asuka got pinned by Mandy Rose. Alright, let's dissect this, shall we? So, here we go. And I'm going to bring up some other examples from previous years and things that are going to be coming up to make a little bit less sense of how wrestling works. Okay, so we had Asuka get beat by Mandy Rose. So you're telling me Asuka could beat Charlotte Flair, tapped out Becky Lynch, but then gets distracted and loses to Mandy Rose? So what was the point of having her off TV for so long just to have her pinned by Mandy Rose of all people? Now, I think Mandy Rose has been, you know, one of the bright spots in the women's division on SmackDown, but she's not there yet. She's not she's not a main, she should not be going for the belt and pinning Asuka right now. You gave Asuka all this momentum and you just took it all the way one step forward, 20 steps backwards, like I said. You take it all the way in one night by having Mandy Rose pin Asuka with a roll up. I hate roll ups. If you're going to do a distraction finish, at least have the person that's going to get the pin do a move on the person distracted and then get the pinfall. You can even still do a roll up if you want. Stop doing these cheap victories over top talent like that. It makes them look stupid and weak. And you're just, you're killing the business. I don't know if you're killing the business. But, yeah. So, the way that we saw with this whole Mandy stuff beating Asuka, who tapped down Becky and beat Charlotte at TLC, this brought me back to a couple of other weird decisions that if you think about it, you're like, wait, that does not make any sense in the scheme of if you're looking at all these people, like if they had overalls like in a video game. um this brings me back to this all the time when I see like a low card talent beating top talent out of nowhere. This always brings me back to Brock Lesnar, Triple H from WrestleMania 29, and then WrestleMania 30 the year following. Let's run down what happened. We had Triple H beating Brock Lesnar in a no holds barred or no disqualification match, whatever it was, at WrestleMania 29, right? So Triple H could beat Brock Lesnar. If we're looking at this stuff in overalls, Brock Lesnar has the highest rating in WWE, right? So Triple H is able to beat Brock Lesnar, and then in a no holds barred match, and I think he was injured in that match. So we move a year later. Triple H is older, mind you, right? Or actually, I don't know why that. No, forget that I said the older thing. So that makes, because that will kind of disprove my point. But anyway, Triple H goes on to WrestleMania 30, right, to face Daniel Bryan, which in the scheme of things he's rated high, but he's no Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, let's say he's 100. Daniel Bryan is like an 89, and Triple H is in the middle of those two. Let's say 93, 94, whatever. Right? But somehow Daniel Bryan, a smaller guy, is able to beat Triple H. A year earlier, when he was younger, Triple H, I don't know why I keep bringing that up, but Triple H was able to beat Brock Lesnar, who later in the night would be able to defeat the Undertaker's streak. So if Triple H can beat Brock Lesnar, how does it make sense that a smaller guy than Brock Lesnar, like Daniel Bryan, can beat Triple H? Alright, now let's keep going. So, technically, Daniel Bryan, a weaker guy, is able to defeat Triple H, who's able to defeat Brock Lesnar, who's able to defeat the Undertaker's streak. Right? This small little guy. Now I love Daniel Bryan. I'm not shitting on him. I'm just trying to make a point. But we move down the card that same WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan hurt because he got destroyed by Triple H earlier in the night. He is hurt, but he is able to defeat Batista and Randy Orton, two top guys in the scheme of WWE. They're they're rated in the upper 90s as well. Uh, but Daniel Bryan is able to come out and beat them. But not only that, he gets stretchered to the back and then still finds his way back out and makes Batista tap out. And then he becomes the WWE champion. So how does that make any sense if you're trying to tell a real storyline that a small guy is able to defeat Batista, Randy Orton, who have both. Batista has beaten Undertaker before, not at WrestleMania, but Batista has been beaten the Undertaker. Randy Orton has beaten John Cena, and then Daniel Bryan beats Triple H, a guy who has beaten Brock Lesnar and Shawn Michaels and all these guys. But this small guy, Daniel Bryan, is basically able to beat anybody, even when he's hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes no sense when they do some booking decisions and they don't think about previous years or who that person has beaten before. It's just crazy. And also with this Kofi Kingston stuff, I don't know if I said this in my predictions or before on a podcast, but Kofi Kingston was able to beat Daniel Bryan when a guy like AJ Styles couldn't beat Daniel Bryan, a guy like Triple H couldn't beat Daniel Bryan, but Kofi Kingston was able to, right? That makes sense. And then later on in the night, he was able to beat Jeff Hardy, who a guy like Triple H and Jeff and Edge were not able to beat Jeff Hardy before. In their prime, they lost the championship to Jeff Hardy, but now an older Kofi Kingston is able to beat Jeff Hardy, former WWE champion Jeff Hardy, right? Kofi Kingston can beat him, and he wasn't even at 100%. And then moving on to the gauntlet match, he defeats Samoa Joe, who's supposed to be an ass kicker. How does that make any sense? And Kofi Kingston was well beyond less than 100% in the scheme of the storyline, right? And now moving forward, looking into the future, we're supposed to believe that Becky Lynch, who tapped out to Asuka, the same person that lost to a wrestler like Mandy Rose, we're supposed to believe that Becky Lynch, less than 100%, because for the most part, she's probably going to go in there with that injury, less than 100%, is going to be able to defeat an undefeated Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair in a triple threat match. How does that make any sense? Nothing makes sense. No continuity, no anything. But that's why I hate the whole injury angle with Becky Lynch, by the way. And again, nothing with Becky Lynch or Charlotte. They had a backstage thing with Charlotte, so I guess they had that. But again, nothing really of repercussions for Becky Lynch for coming out at the Chamber, where there should be repercussions. They should add on to the suspension at least. But whatever. That's what I had to say about SmackDown. A couple of stupid decisions there. But still, I think SmackDown was a decent show, especially with all the matches that they had with the NXT guys. Those matches had some good stuff in them, even though they weren't really continuing any storylines. But the crowd was hotter, and the matches were better, and they did advance. Did I say they didn't advance storylines? Oh, I meant they didn't advance storylines for the NXT matches. Maybe down the line they did tell a good throwback with Alistair and Andrade though, because they did have that match last year in New Orleans for the championship, and Tommaso and Johnny had their first match last year in that same building that they faced the Bar in. But that was I'm talking about they didn't have any storylines moving forward on Raw. They did have storylines moving forward on SmackDown with Shane and Miz versus the Usos and Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. So at least SmackDown was a little bit better than Raw. And besides the whole NXT stuff, Raw was a complete waste of time. To round out the episode, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. and that were taking the wrestling business by storm. No, I'm just kidding. It was just DX Hall of Fame and some Paige comments that she made about women's wrestling. But DX going into the Hall of Fame this year as a group, we have Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, X Pac, and Chyna. And if you don't think that they are doing this to get Chyna in the Hall of Fame without getting herself, like just her by herself in the Hall of Fame, and this is not just a cop out, you are, I don't know what you're smoking on, because this is definitely Jesus. This is definitely a way for them to get Chyna into the Hall of Fame without getting her into the Hall of Fame by herself. Now, can they put her down the line in the Hall of Fame? I don't see why they would, because she's already in. And this is a fake Hall of Fame where Vince just puts in whoever he thinks belongs in there. It's not really voted on by anybody else. But I don't see why they will put her in twice. I don't see why they put Ric Flair in twice. But that's a different, it's kind of like the same. It makes no sense. Just put people in. Once you put somebody in, they're in for everything that they've done. Don't put them in twice. Don't put them in three times. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So once they get in, like Triple H, he's gonna get in eventually by himself, but but he shouldn't. That's why they should have just done. They should have just done Triple H, Chyna by herself. You could have done the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn by themselves, and X Pac by himself. Billy Gunn and Road Dogg as a tag team, I mean, not by themselves. But the New Age Outlaws could have been a tag team in by themselves. Shawn Michaels was already in. Triple H and Chyna deserve to be in there by themselves. And X Pac could also be argued to be in by himself with what he's done for smaller guys for the business. Um, but yeah, but them going in as DX, this kind of takes uh, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, and X Pac, gets them all out of the way, and also Chyna, obviously. But you already know Triple H is going to go in there by himself a year or in a couple years down the line. But yeah, this is a way for them to get Chyna in the Hall of Fame. I have no problem with it, but it is a cop out. I wonder who else they could have put in as the big headline name, and I wonder who's going to put these guys in. And also, Billy Gunn, this is kind of interesting. Billy Gunn working with AEW. Now, this is all before the whole Double or Nothing stuff, so, but still, it's kind of weird to see Billy Gunn going in with this affiliation to AEW. That'll be funny if they mention any of that at the celebration or at the Hall of Fame. And Road Dogg, he's become a bit of a kind of pushover. He was one of the big guys in the Attitude Era who was saying "suck it, fuck it, and tuck it," and now he's defending Vince again, a yes man, with all the decisions that they make in the business now in the company. And X Pac, like I said, he's done some good stuff. Shawn Michaels going in there twice. Like I said, I don't know why people go in twice. It makes no sense. Once you go in, you should go in for everything that you've accomplished, whether you go in as a group, as a tag team, or by yourself. And I'm pretty sure they mentioned the whole DX stuff when he went in before. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they probably did. And Chyna, Triple H, whatever. Let's move on to what Paige said about women's wrestling and the fans. The way that I read it was that she said that WWE was not the only reason women's wrestling was not more popular or something like that, and the fans were a reason why it got held back because we didn't take it seriously. Now, am I the only one here who puts all the blame on WWE? They are a fake TV show. They write the storylines. They could have written women to get over years ago. They could have had women getting over, putting on good matches since day one, WrestleMania one. They could have had these women be taken seriously by anybody. They're a fake TV show. They could do whatever the hell they want. They are the ones that decided to not put them in relevant storylines or give them enough time to go out there and wrestle. You're telling me Natalia, Beth Phoenix, Michelle McCool, Layla, Victoria, Mickey James, Trish Stratus, even Lita, even they weren't good wrestlers, but you're telling me they couldn't have been put in better storylines and not be made to look like just eye candy? I mean, come on now. There have been reports of many women coming out saying that WWE made them do stuff a certain way to not get them over. So to say that it's just the fans' fault, I don't think she even said that, because I think she kind of retracted on her words. And if you're gonna do that, just don't even say anything in the first place. If you're gonna retract on what you say, I can see sometimes in the heat of the moment you'll say some stuff, but this was an interview, and she probably got as a WWE wrestler, she probably got these questions in advance, and she probably thought what she was gonna say beforehand. So just don't even say anything if you're gonna retract your words, especially as a public figure or as a celebrity. Um, but yeah, if you feel a certain type of way, don't try to go back on it. Kind of, stand by what you say. I could honestly see where she was coming from. I mean, fans, even I've said it before. If we got bra and panties matches here and there, I wouldn't mind it. Now, you can say the same thing though, because we had a post down a couple weeks ago with Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews, and I don't see people complaining about that. You know what I mean? So we can have both sides of the coin. We can have men and women being treated equally, showing off their bodies. I mean, these guys are coming out in freaking tights to wrestle in with baby oil all over the body. And if a female says, "Oh, they're so hot," nobody's gonna care. Nobody says anything. So why is it wrong for a man to say, "Oh, she looks hot"? I wish they did more, kind of sexy stuff on WWE. Why is that look? Why is that frowned upon? Now, so I can see what she means with fans wanting, a certain type of women wrestler on their TV, but at the same time, WWE is the one who gave us that and presented it to us, that made us want it. Now, if they gave us Trish versus Lita, Natalia versus Beth Phoenix, back in the day, now Natalia sucks now, but back in the day, Natalia versus Beth Phoenix, she was one of the better wrestlers on the roster. Michelle McCool and Layla, Mickey James versus Victoria in traditional wrestling matches with good storylines. You can't tell me that some wrestling fans, or for the most part, most fans wouldn't have wanted that back in the day. If you give somebody good TV, that's what they're gonna see. That's what they're going to want to see. Now the whole bra and panty stuff was coming up in a time where, the Attitude Era and all that was taking place, so people wanted to see that, and you presented it in a good, not in a good light, but in a manner to where the fans would clamor for that. Moving on down the line, if you gave them some more wrestling with the women, they would have been clamoring for that. Just like in 2015, that whole revolution started because fans were clamoring for that type of wrestling. We're not saying, you know, it's not saying that fans didn't want that before 2015. Obviously, in TNA, and this is like during my short time watching TNA as a kid, that I would see women on TNA actually wrestle, and I was like, why aren't they doing that on WWE? You know what I mean? So like as a kid, even as a preteen, I think I even was. As a preteen, I was like, why aren't they wrestling more on WWE? Why are they just doing these bikini contests and stuff? Makes no sense. So to put all the blame on the fans is kind of ridiculous when the company is a fake TV show company that can write in wrestling into the show at any point in the time, in any point of the history that that company's been around, and they chose not to. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Is it the fans' fault? Is it the company's fault? Whose fault is it? Or is it nobody's fault? And everything was meant to happen for a reason, and we got what we got now, and let's just keep on going with our lives. So finally, we have the Ric Flair birthday celebration next week. I'm expecting, now, obviously they haven't said anything is going to be big or anything about that, but I'm expecting a big show for next week, especially it being in Atlanta. The crowd probably is going to be hot. Ric Flair is related to Charlotte, obviously her dad. That ties in Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, so hopefully they further that storyline. I'm not sure if Brock Lesnar is going to make an appearance, but either way, I don't know what they can do with Rollins versus Lesnar to get me more excited for it than I am or not am. I don't know. I don't know if I'm excited for it or not because you still don't know if they're going to give Rollins the belt. There's still like that little thing in the back of your head that's like, wait, they didn't give Roman Reigns the belt last year at WrestleMania when you thought he was a lock of the millennium to get that belt, right? So we still don't know if Rollins is going to get that belt. So I don't know if I'm excited or not for this Rollins Lesnar match at WrestleMania. And then, like I said, I'm expecting Becky Lynch to come out, and this is when they, or if not this one, this is the catalyst to give us Becky Lynch versus Charlotte at Fastlane, probably to get her back in the match at WrestleMania. But I'm seeing this whole Ric Flair celebration to be part of a storyline furthering that whole Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte stuff. So I'm looking forward to Raw next week. But again, if they do deliver on a good Raw next week, who's to say they won't fuck it up 24 hours later or the week after? You know what I mean? So my hopes are high for that Raw next week, and we'll see how they deal with this NXT talent that they brought up this past week. Are they going to continue to use them in the weeks coming? Velveteen Dream, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Velveteen Dream took the belt off Johnny Gargano, so that frees up Johnny Gargano to come up to the main roster. And Aleister Black and Ricochet don't have a belt, but Aleister Black got attacked by the Undisputed Era on NXT, and Ricochet came out to help, so maybe it's going to be them taking on the Undisputed Era in a storyline, and then Lucha leaves NXT or whatever. And then I don't know who takes the belt from Tommaso Ciampa right now. Like, seriously, who do they have that is a top face that could take on Tommaso Ciampa? Unless they turn Ciampa face, and then maybe Adam Cole takes the belt from him. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to watch in the NXT for the weeks coming up to see how they play those four talents out of their storylines at NXT and bring them up to the main roster. If that's what they're gonna do before WrestleMania now, it's kind of weird that they did it before WrestleMania because what do they do at WrestleMania? What does Ciampa, Gargano, Alistair, and Ricochet do at WrestleMania with this little time to build anything for them? Hopefully they don't get thrown in the fucking Andre the Giant Battle Royal because they deserve to be in prominent feuds. So with all that being said, that's gonna be it for this week's episode. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions for me, leave them down in the comments. I'll answer them for you next podcast. Hopefully I'm back next week. And if you enjoyed, hit the like button to let me know that you are enjoying this type of content. If not, I'll stop and I'll never do it again in the history of my life. And I'll go home, cry to my mom, and tell her that you guys were a bunch of meanies on the internet. No, I'm kidding. But thanks for watching again. I'm out.